Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm full of optimism.
Einstein's theory of relativity.
we're still seeing it quite well through that haze. T-minus 37 seconds.
Psyche is growing confident.
E equals MC.
That all men are created equal.
About the future innovations.
And growing strength in the air.
Tear down this weather.
Something's happening coming up on station.
This is Finding Your Frequency with your hosts, Jeff Spinard and Ryan Treasure. It's time to speak up, share your voice, and hear from the thought leaders.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic episode of Finding Your Frequency. I am your host, Ryan Treasure, and I want to just thank everybody for taking the time out to listen to the radio show. It's been quite fantastic over the last several months with great radio shows, and I appreciate all the reviews on iTunes from all the folks that have taken the time to write a review and rate us 5 stars, because I feel like we're definitely a 5-star show. So today we have a great show. Today we're going to talk about communication, coaching, leadership, positive influence, all of those great things. And I think some of those topics that we're going to talk about today are extremely timely, very important, especially, now while everybody seems to be sequestered. I like to use that word, sequestered at home, working from home, spending a lot of time with their own families, their own selves, and I think one of the things for me specifically that's been kind of a positive about being sequestered at home, even though I'm not necessarily sequestered, I get to go to the studio every day, which is still kind of great, but my wife has been home, but it's been a humbling experience because I've been able to, kind of take a step back for a little while and internalize some things that I'm doing in my life and some things that I've wanted to do for a while that I haven't done. I've been on this crazy, let's declutter the house thing. So every day, on the weekend, I'm going through different things. And, my wife, she had to have a space for her job. She's an accountant, so she had to have some space at the house for that. And, I was like, I want to do something really cool, but I also am a cheapskate, so I don't like to spend money. And so I found this cool couch on OfferUp, which is an app on your phone that you can buy used things from people. And so I found this cool couch. It was $50, and I went to go look at it, and I was like, this thing is brand new. It has a trundle that pulls out and it turns into a bed. So it's super cool as a couch. And so we put that in the den. I built my wife a desk out of wood, put that into the corner. So now she has her nice space, and, we've been able to kind of get rid of stuff. My garage is filled with stuff that's going to Goodwill, which I'm getting ready to go and do that this weekend. I'm going to load it all up in the pickup truck and send it all down to Goodwill. I'm a tech guy, right? So I had all these boxes and all these things that have cables in them. And, I'm looking at these cables and I'm like, this is a serial cable from 1985. This technology is even obsolete. So I've been, kind of going through all of that, and I started doing karate. I started mixing records again that I haven't done in over a year. And so it's just all been, kind of a positive in some spaces. And so I think that the point that I'm trying to make for all of you guys that are listening is, even though we have all this craziness that's going on, there's always an opportunity to improve, to be better, and making sure that you stay positive in those spaces will allow you to have some personal growth. And so I think those are some great things, and my words of wisdom for the day as we kick off the show. We have a great guest for you guys. She is awesome, and she lives in the land of chocolate. So, you gotta give kudos where kudos is due. My mom last summer went on this crazy Viking tour on the river, all through Europe and Switzerland and all the way into Germany, and she brought me back Swiss chocolate and a Swiss Army knife, and it was super cool. So speaking of Swiss, this young lady is amazing. She's got 30 years of experience understanding the human psyche, because the human psyche, it's extensive, so it probably takes 30 years for you to understand it. I know I've been married for 20 something years. I'm still trying to understand the female psyche and understanding my wife and how to communicate properly, because it takes work to do that, right? Amy, she has a bachelor's degree in psychology. She's a professional certified coach, master practitioner of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I love that stuff. And the author of The Ego Tango, How to Get More of What You Want More Often with Less Hassle. Amy Carroll, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ryan. Great to be with you.
I really appreciate you being on with us today. What a great thing that you do, being a kind of like mindset, leadership, communication coach and specialist. And, I think a lot of that stuff is very needed, especially nowadays, right? As I was talking earlier about being sequestered, how people are leaders, how people communicate, all of those things have kind of been shifting and changing as we've all been embracing this. I hate this word, but the new normal. I hate that word. It's overused, but it's a truthful word, though, right? I mean, we have this new normal that's happening, and leadership and communication is very important nowadays.
Yeah, I hear you, and you're right. We're constantly adjusting. This has just been a massive shift in a very, very short period of time.
Hey everybody, I wanted to tell you about this great shaving product that I've been using lately. Not only is it awesome, it will save you money. Enough to buy 26 cups of coffee in New York City or 3 deep dish pizza dinners in Chicago. Harry's is an awesome product. It delivers high quality razor blades as low as $2 each, a fraction of the price of leading brands, and saving you hundreds of dollars at the same time. I really like the way that Harry's works. It has a very close shave, it's got a great design for the handle, and also the scent of the shave gel is fantastic and it leaves your skin nice and smooth. You can get a trial set delivered to your doorstep by going to harrys.com/frequency. Quality, durable blades at a fair price, just $2 a blade. They've cut out middlemen manufacturing blades in their German blade factory that's been honing precision blades for a century. I'm telling you, I use this product and it is absolutely amazing. Harry's has all your grooming needs covered in just one stop. You can get blades, hair care, shower products, all on harrys.com. And just like their blades, Harry is committed to providing premium products without breaking the bank. Again, visit harrys.com/frequency. I want to make sure that everybody gets the chance to go check it out. You can feel better too about the purchase because 1% of their proceeds are set aside for nonprofit organizations developed to helping provide access to better mental health care for men and veterans. How could you not get behind the veterans? So important nowadays. Listeners of the show can redeem their Harry's trial set at harrys.com/frequency. You'll get a weighted ergonomic handle for a firm grip, 5-blade razor with a lubricating strip and a trimmer blade. I use it every day. Rich lathering shave gel with aloe to keep your skin hydrated. And I'm telling you, when you get done shaving, your face will feel so smooth, it's amazing. You even get a travel blade cover to keep your razors dry and easy to grab on the go. So make sure you go to harrys.com/frequency to start shaving and saving today. Yeah, and I sometimes sit back and I think about it and I'm like, is this like a science project that some world leaders decided to kick up to see, all right, well, let's shake up the status quo and see what could be possible. And, I see a lot of businesses that are shifting their things. Here at Voice America, here I am, I'm in the studio. We have a 5,000 square foot facility and studios and a control room that's about, 800 or 900 square feet where all the engineers run shows. And that's the only part of the building that's operational right now. So when I walk into the building every day, it's kind of weird because there's no executive producers here. There's no support staff. It's just our Voice America essential employees, for lack of a better term, right? And so it's just weird, and at the same time, though, it makes me think as a leader here at Voice America about, what are the different ways that we can operate a business, provide leadership, lead by example, but all do it remotely, right? And so we've been having a lot of fun, creating digital training for new employees and, onboarding some new pieces and making little videos and some of those kind of things, which have been great. And I think that shift is something that probably a lot of business professionals are seeing. And I know that you work with a lot of business professionals. Are you also, as you're doing coaching, kind of, getting that kind of feel from those folks as well?
Well, you spoke to something that's so important as a leader, is that adaptability and flexibility. And in order to be able to bounce back quickly, you got to have the resilience in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I work with leaders with their mindset and their behaviors so they can build that resilience over time so they have it when they need it.
Have it when you need it. That's probably an important thing, right? It's kind of like you have to have that arrow in your quiver, right, of other arrows, or that tool in your toolbox, and know when to deploy it properly.
Right. You can't wait till the crisis comes to say, okay, these are the skills I'm going to use. No, you got to make sure those skills are fine-tuned and well-oiled and ready to go at the drop of a hat, as they say.
Yeah, I was talking about that the other day, just from a perspective of having a unique opportunity with this whole crisis that's going on, right? It's kind of like, fool me once, it's on me. Fool me twice, it's on, or it's on you. Fool me twice, it's on me. But it's kind of
right.
the same idea with this whole pandemic that's happening is nobody in business was like ready for a pandemic. It wasn't even a thought in our mind. And I can tell you from, meeting with our station ownership here at Voice America and having discussions about, what does our 5-year plan look like? And when we started planning, that next 5-year cycle for Voice America back in, like mid 2019, and then boom, 2020 hit. And it was like, everything that we thought that we were going to do that now for the next 5 years just completely changed and shifted in an instant. And, so now it's like, you business owners, you have your contingency plans and your this, that, and the other for things that you think that may happen. And that was never on the contingency plan at all. And so now I think it's really up to businesses to knuckle down and be prepared, because now that we know that this is a possibility and we know that this is something that can happen, it's like we better be ready for it to happen again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess for me, what I'm helping leaders do is build their muscles. So it's more about controlling the ego and putting that to the side when we're feeling. So I talk about there's like 8 different categories that can trigger us to misbehave. And I've recently added a 9th. So here are the categories. When we're under pressure, stress, perceived threat, crisis, or just if we're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And of course, the 9th one now is COVID.
Yeah.
So in a way, I feel like COVID is giving people a chance to really shine with their leadership skills. And I think we can use leadership in a very general sense. You can be a leader in your personal family home and among your friends, and not just in the boardroom. So I think it's important that people can appreciate, okay, this is a tough time. It's scary. It's not what I wanted. I think almost most people would like to go back to the way things were, and other people are beginning to embrace the changes. So how can you speed up that process of embracing? Because like you said, it could happen again or something else.
Are you having trouble finding hand sanitizer? Well, Spa Treat has you covered. There's no need to go searching high and low. Just visit spatreatofficial.com and place your order on their easy-to-use website. On schedule delivery. One of the great things about this product, Spa Treat Fulfillment Team is working around the clock to provide people hand sanitizer during this time of need and get your order to you as quickly as possible, even faster than Amazon. Spa Treat also has the lowest price of any of its competitors. Spa Treat has 62% alcohol content, and the FDA recommends between 60 to 80 for maximum protection. This one has 62 because it doesn't dry your hands out. I use this stuff every single day. It is fantastic. It's got certified organic extracts with the ingredients in that hand sanitizer that are of the highest quality, and they're designed to leave your hands smelling and feeling fresh while protecting you at the same time. The best part, there's no tricky residue left over. None of that sticky stuff. 4 scents available: unscented, tea tree, lavender, and lemon. And best of all, this product right here is made in the good old United States of America. A lot of companies are having trouble dealing with the current demands, so Spa Treat has dedicated themselves to providing a much needed product in the time of crisis. Spa Treat has better prices, faster shipping, and a larger supply than any of their competition. There isn't even a close second. Visit spatreatofficial.com and enter promo code SPA SPA at checkout to receive 5% off your entire order. That's right. Not only are they offering the lowest price available, but they're also offering our listeners a discount. This promo code is exclusive to Voice America, and only our listeners get this discount. Spa Treat and Voice America came together on this sponsorship in order to provide Americans something they could really need right now: peace of mind. Visit spatreatofficial.com and order yours today. That's spatreatofficial.com, and make sure you use the promo code SPA at checkout to receive receive 5% off your entire order. SpaTreatOfficial.com. Get your awesome hand sanitizer. I'll use my family as an example. You know, my wife is kind of an introvert, right? She's not she doesn't have a bunch of girlfriends that she chit chats with, and they don't go out and do girls' nights out or anything. My wife's just not that person. And so for her, like, this has been kind of cool, right? Because she's like, I get to work from home and I don't actually have to be around other people, which I didn't really want to do in the first place. And
Ryan, I've discovered I've got an inner introvert, a closet introvert. I am such an extrovert. And now I'm kind of like, it's okay if I'm home. I'm hanging out. So I can appreciate why someone like your wife would be so delighted.
Yeah, and I'm the same way as you, Amy. Like, I'm a total extrovert. I love talking about stuff. It doesn't matter what it is. I just like talking about stuff. I like learning about stuff. Something that my dad taught me a long time ago. It's okay to be a jack of all trades, master of none, right? Because that really brings what could be considered like a true Renaissance person, right? Because you're like we have conversations at home, and my wife is like, "How do you even know anything about this?" I like, one night it was like 10 o'clock. I was on my phone. I went down the rabbit hole. I started reading all of this stuff. The next thing I know, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I put in 4 hours of coursework on whatever the commentary was. And she's like, "That's weird." I said, "That's why I like to read, but I don't necessarily pick up like a book and read one specific thing, because my brain doesn't work that way." Right? I'm like,
right.
That's why I love Wikipedia, right? Because they hyperlink everything inside of Wikipedia. So as you start reading through there, you're like, "Oh, that's cool." Click, boom. Now you're down a whole nother rabbit hole. And so that's just, kind of like how my personality is. But I've been the same as you. Like I realized, like I was saying earlier in the show, like I hadn't done martial arts in 10 years, right? And I'm like, my daughter had been doing martial arts, and I'm like, well, why am I not doing this? I've been doing this before. Why did I take a 10-year hiatus from martial arts? So again, I started doing martial arts again. I started that actually before the pandemic started back in February, and when it was kind of getting started, I guess, before we all got sequestered. And I was so excited last week because I actually got to go back to the dojo, and I got to see our sensei and, actual have conversations with real people rather than, being on Zoom and trying to do karate on Zoom, which is really hard.
So here's a question for you. How have you noticed, with that 10-year break, have the skills come back easily, or do you feel like you're starting from scratch?
So a little bit of both, right? The martial arts that I'm doing now is a different style than what I had done before. I was like halfway to my black belt in Kempo, which is it's similar to karate, but it's not quite the same. And now I'm doing a completely different style, and I'm doing Okinawan karate, which is different than Japanese karate, because they have their own, methods and mechanisms of movement that were different than Japan. So, yes, I do feel some of the stuff that I had known before is similar, and so, but it's also like I had this habitual stuff that I had learned from my previous martial arts experience, and so when I'm sparring, I find myself every once in a while like using maneuvers that I wasn't taught in this particular one, and my sensei goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, "I'm just doing what I know." And he's like, he's like, "Well, I guess you're not wrong. It works. It's just not what we do here." And I said, "Well, yeah, no, that's going to be probably something you and I are going to be dealing with for the next however long I'm doing martial arts with you guys." But the biggest thing for me has been like just the physical conditioning, right? I totally forgot about that. Hey, Brian, you're 40 years old, dude. You need to take care of your body, right?
Yeah.
And that's also been something we've talked about on the radio show a lot. That's been pretty widely accepted for some of the shows we've done. It's like, how can you really be a leader, or how can you really be a good father or a leadership position? Like, how can you take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself?
Yeah. And you talk about the physical taking care of, and also there's the mind piece. We talk about neuroplasticity and how the mind is malleable and can learn and grow and change. And going back to this whole thing about, for me, I'm always looking for a way to push myself out of my comfort zone or do something different. So it might be like in Switzerland, life here it's pretty safe. So when you see somebody who's hitchhiking, especially if he's like, one time I stopped for this man who was about 80 years old, and I was uncomfortable doing it, not because I felt unsafe, because it felt, I've got to have a stranger come into my space, and I've got to, my French was still on the creative side, and he started speaking to me, and he had this strong accent. I didn't have a friggin' clue what he was saying, and I was just saying, oui, ah bon, in the right moments, and I did it because I wanted to stretch myself. I'm often looking for a way, how can I push outside my comfort zone? Because every time I do that, I grow. And that's what you're doing with taking on a new type of karate. You're saying, okay, it's not what I knew before, and I haven't done it for a long time. And so not only is that conditioning you physically, it's also conditioning your mind to be adaptable and to be ready for change. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's one of the really key components about Okinawan karate that really drew me to the particular dojo that we're at is, the number one thing that we talk about is kind of a philosophy of karate is, the philosophy is getting your mind and your body to work together as one, right? Because so many times people go like on autopilot with their subconscious, right? And they just, I've done this before while driving a car, right? Weirdest thing. You're driving along, and then all of a sudden you're like snap out of this subconscious, that was driving your body at the time. And I go, I don't even remember driving the last 3 miles, right? And it's like, so when you really focus on your mind and your body together as one, like those moments become less, they're fleeting, they go away. And so I've started to notice a more sharp version of myself at home, at work. So I have to do this belt test coming up in October. And so I'm training pretty hard for that. Part of the belt test is I have to be able to do 50 push-ups simultaneously, 50 squats, and also 50 sit-ups. And so, funny. So I haven't really been pushing myself that hard until last week. And so last night, my wife was like, "Can you even do 50 push-ups?" Just asking me, And I'm like, "Can you do 5?"
Oh, that's a good comeback. Very mature, Ryan.
Yeah, and she goes, "Well, it's not about me. I'm not. She said, this is your journey." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." And right there on the spot, I'm like, "Let's try right now." And I did 51 push-ups, and I about fell over after that, but I was able to complete them, right? But that was a good moment for me last night because I was already questioning myself on whether I could do what I needed to do, and then now that I've already done it, and I still have like 6 weeks to go before my test, I'm like, all right, well now how many more can I do? And so it's that idea of pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone or your boundary, because that is when growth happens. And part of our promo for Finding Your Frequency says summoning the intestinal fortitude to step out of your comfort zone and try.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that so many times people get so stuck in their head and are so stuck in their routine that they fail to stop and smell the roses for just a moment and think about, well, what if I did this differently now? How can I learn or grow and be a better person? Because talking about leadership, right? Perfect example with leadership is if you don't ever expand your horizons as a leader or jump in with 2 feet when there's something happening that you've not dealt with before, then, you'll never be able to address that item the proper way in the future, right? And I love the idea for me, like it's like leading by example. Like I would never tell anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself, right? And I think when employees and people understand that and they see that value in you, they hold you in a higher regard because they respect that about you.
And what I love about leaders who, what you're describing, are willing to take a risk, make a mistake, because if they haven't done it before, there's a good chance they'll screw it up. And and for them to even announce that, they may feel like, oh, I shouldn't admit I've never done this. I'll be vulnerable. Yeah, well, being vulnerable is, to me, an incredibly powerful element of being a powerful leader, because then you're modeling by example, like you're saying. And you also talked about how the karate is helping you to align and get stronger physically and emotionally, or mentally rather. And it made me think of about 17 years ago, a friend of mine said, "Hey, Amy, my husband's going to be in this ski marathon. Let's go be, his cheerleaders." I said, "Okay." So we watched them do 42 kilometers, 26 miles of cross-country skiing. At the end of the race, she turns to me, and there's about 12,000 people doing it at this point. She said, "Amy, we should do this next year." And I said, "Karen, you don't even know how to ski." She said, "That's okay, you'll teach me." And then when I went home and I calculated, you had like a 6-hour limit window to finish the race and how long it would take me to do the 26 miles. I would have needed 8 hours to finish the race.
Right.
So I had to learn a new way of cross-country skiing, ski skating, which is much more endurance heavy. And so I learned that. She learned it. When the next year we set out and we did this. And unbeknownst to me, Ryan, the gift that I got at the end was this boost in my confidence. And that didn't just come, it wasn't just physically confident, I can, do whatever I want, I'm physically stronger. No, it was business-wise and relationships. It gave me a sense of confidence. So I think another thing that we're both starting to highlight here is the power of going back to that example, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, do things that are scary and uncomfortable, because that to me is a way to concretely flex your muscles as a leader.
Yeah, no, and I like that you felt that confidence, and I'm looking forward to that in October actually, because like I was telling you, I have this belt test coming. So this is my first belt test for this particular style of karate, right? And you have like 3 levels of white belt, and then you get into green belt, and there's several levels of green before you get into the several levels of brown to get to black. And so I told myself when I started, I'm like, I've already had a white belt a couple times, like in different stuff that I've done. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that this time. I'm skipping all of that. Right. And so, which is way outside my comfort zone. We were doing goal setting for the belt test, and my sensei goes, "All right, well, what are you going to test, like the second white belt or the third white belt?" I said, "No, I'm skipping all the white belts. I'm going straight to green." And he looked at me and he goes, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm 100% sure. I need to definitely do that." But I'm excited about this stuff coming up in October, because I'm, really pushing the boundary of something I haven't done before. And I'm looking forward to having that satisfaction of knowing that I was able to do that. And I know in my mind, like, I know I'm going to be able to pass the test, but I still have 6 weeks of like doubting myself. Right.
Yep.
But it's that going outside of the comfort zone. And I'm just using the karate as an example of, things that leaders need to be doing to get outside their comfort zone to be better leaders. But I also think for me, like, doing this and being outside of my comfort zone and being able to accomplish that, like you said, with your skiing thing, I feel that's going to make me a better father, a better husband, and a better leader, a better manager, all of those things, having the confidence to know, wait a minute, I was able to do this. And it's kind of cool, because all the engineers that are here in the production department, I get so I have karate class today. So I have them on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And so I come to work on Tuesday morning and I'm like super sore, and they laugh at me. They're like, "Well, how many push-ups did you have to do yesterday?" Or, what did you get to learn? And so it's kind of been this fun, thing that I'm also sharing with my team here at Voice America. And it'll be great to be able to walk in and be like, "Look, guys, I got the belt."
It was worth it.
Yeah. So Amy, all of this information that all of the 30 years of experience that you have, 30 years ago, what made you go like, yes, I'm gonna go be a coach. I'm gonna start carrollcoaching.com. I'm gonna do all of these things. Like, what was that aha moment for you where you found your frequency and started following the path that you're on?
Yeah. Well, when we do the calculation, it was more like 40-something years ago. I was 15 years old. And so let me back up and give a little more story. I grew up on the East Coast in New York. And when I was 15, my sister moved to California. We moved to the Midwest. Now, I come from a big Irish Catholic family, 7 kids. We were very close. So this was really hard for my sister and I to be separated like this. As a result, what she did, because she was 10 years older than me, she would fly me out to California, and I would sit in the back of her training classes because she taught presentation skills. what we didn't realize, Ryan, was that I was absorbing her skill set. And also at the same time, when I was 15, I started working part-time jobs. Oddly enough, job after job after job, I would have a difficult boss. And every time I had a difficult boss, I'd call up my sister, Pat, and I'd say, Pat, you're not going to believe it. I got a jerk for a boss. She said, oh, bad luck, Amy. So we'll just fast forward, Ryan. Now I'm in my mid-20s, 7-8 years later, and I still have these difficult bosses. And I called Pat up, and she said, let me guess, another difficult boss? Yes. She said, Amy, honey, no one has that kind of bad luck. So that was the light bulb, Ryan. That was the moment I realized, oh, you mean I'm the common denominator in all this conflict? And so that was the moment when things switched, because even though I didn't know how to fix it, I was highly motivated to figure it out and to change it. So I took classes, I did therapy, I did self-development, and that was the beginning of my process to figure out how I could transform my communication so that I wasn't constantly in conflict with bosses. Because, frankly, you don't get Employee of the Month award when the bosses want to fire you constantly.
So why do they want to fire you though? What was so unique about you that caused the friction between all of those different folks that you worked with?
Nothing unique. I was just let me give you a model that I use a lot. And this is a model that my sister Pat developed. So she was 10 years ahead of me, and she was desperately wanting to figure out a way to help people communicate more effectively. So she comes up with this model over time, which has some of its base in presentation skills, some in improv, some in many different different areas of study. And it's 3 archetypes: the predator, the prey, the partner. The predator is a person who holds too much respect for herself, not enough for others. So if you and I are colleagues and we're having a disagreement, I might sound like this, but Ryan, would you just let me finish? And you're going, whoa, what's her problem? And so I potentially damaged the relationship. By contrast, the prey, and that's P-R-E-Y, is where if we're having that same conflict, I might say, Ryan, I know. I'm sorry. Ryan, could I just explain? And now I'm holding too much respect for you, not enough for me. That could trigger someone like you, Ryan, to become aggressive towards me, to become a predator towards me. So she comes up with these 2 archetypes, and then we name the thing in the middle partner. And the partner is magical because she's holding high respect for the other and for herself simultaneously. My problem back when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, I would have these bosses who I perceived as being disrespectful to either me or someone else, and I would go predator on them. I did not care if they were, I wasn't afraid to have conflict. I wasn't, so I was aggressive with positive intent. I call myself a protective predator. Nonetheless, it still had the same results. There was a problem. And even if I went predator on a boss, that would still damage safety and trust with a colleague, because they're like, whoa, if Amy's going to go, aggressive on Steve, she might bite my head off too. So it wasn't working even if I had positive intentions.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and I love the idea of partner. And it's funny, and you're right. I try to fit in that middle mode of partner all the time. Sometimes I'm a predator, sometimes but there's also when you're that prey and you're like, but just I will be the person that goes, listen, I'm going to listen to what you say, but you need to speak up, be bold, be who you are. And I'm going to tell somebody that, right? And I think that's where leadership starts, right? Is if you have the ability to identify something that's happening in a given moment and give somebody some tips. It's like, look, I appreciate what you're doing and I know you want to talk, but I'm also giving you a piece of advice as a human being. Like let's speak up, let's have some purpose.
So Ryan, let me theorize why you do that. Because you know that they're instinctively, intuitively, you know that you don't want to go predator on them. Mm-hmm. And that these behaviors, or these wimping behaviors, or these overly humble or passive behaviors in their speech and their words and their body language are sabotaging that, and they're risking you're biting their head off. And so instead, what you do is, if you speak louder and more assertively, I'm going to respect you more, and therefore I'm not going to be tempted to go predator on you. So so for me, from the perspective of the leader, first and foremost is awareness. Because here's the thing, leaders have positional power, and with positional power, often we misbehave. So there's a lot of leaders out there that might be going predator because they can get away with it, and they're not managing their internal state. They're not building enough resilience for them to stay partner under pressure. So that's the whole thing. Step in partner before you need it. Stay in partner when the going gets tough. Remain in partner even if you don't get what you want. For me, even though results are critical in business, if you don't have the relationship, the results are going to falter very quickly.
Yeah, I try to save my predator for let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? Managing vendors. That's where I try to save my predator portion, right? When you're working with a telecom company, internet service provider, hosting company, and I always like to bring on, we've been a customer for 15 years and you're gonna raise my rates. How about I'll just leave?
Okay, so here's may I offer you an invitation, a challenge?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so here's your challenge. Next vendor conversation, or the one after that, or one after that, if you're feeling that inner predator rising, your job is to stay partner with them and still get what you want. Because here's the problem, when we know we can misbehave as the customer. That's the mantra, customer is king. This was born in the US, and even around the world, I hear this repeated, except those people on the receiving end know that we can misbehave. So if we can stay partner, even in a situation where we have the right, because they're raising the rates, for example, to go predator, and we maintain partner, we're going to buy their appreciation.
Okay.
And partner, what's really important is it's not about giving up on the results, because there's also a thing called alpha partner. If you absolutely have to have a certain result, unfortunately, this is the way it has to be. So that's the invitation I offer you.
All right. Well, I'll definitely try for sure. I'll put that into practice, and I'll definitely try. It's tough sometimes, right? Though, because people have, things that have been ingrained in them, or habits, right? That are things that happen for a long time, and it takes some practice, right? And some some looking inward at yourself to make some changes in some of those spaces, because you're so accustomed to dealing with situations in a certain way.
Yep.
And that's tough. And again, that's the putting yourself outside of the comfort zone again.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've shared this model with people. Let's say I have a person in front of me and they are clearly predator. And I explain the model of predator, prey, partner. And just for entertainment now, I say, so do you think you're more predator or more prey under pressure? And they'll say, oh my God, I'm so prey. And I've stopped falling off my chair. I've gotten that response so many times. Here's my thinking. They might have been a prey to someone else when they were younger, either a sibling or a neighbor or someone at school. And they haven't upgraded their internal mindset with how they've over balanced or exaggerated their external predator. So they've done a good job of defending themselves now, because they're never going to go back and let that happen again. Except what they don't realize is they've overdone it, and so they're actually showing up and being perceived as predator. And so when they realize that, their desire to change is very high, because that's not been their intention.
Hey, that's a really good point. And I've done that myself, where I've gone predator. I'm like, whoa, after the fact, I'm like, why did I do that? I didn't really need to do that. It was unnecessary. But I think that's an important component of leadership skills too, is being able to identify and be aware of, like, oh, wait a minute, I did something. Because so many times people in high leadership positions, or people that of power that have the ability to abuse that power, they abuse the power, but they don't even realize that they're abusing the power. They just do it.
Right. Yeah, one of the things I'm excited to talk about is on my show is the privilege. What that does, literally the mindset. They say that when you join the in-group, let's say you join the C-suite, you become the chief financial officer, for example. Literally, as soon as you join the in-group, your ability to have empathy for the out-group shrinks. And that to me is really depressing, except what you said earlier is so critical, awareness. Just having awareness of our privilege and our power and our status, and how, I have a tendency to go predator when I haven't had lunch, or I tend to go prey with my, my boss's boss, or, when we know what the triggers are, and if we're motivated to change, that is more than half of the battle.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. And it takes a certain kind of individual to identify some of those changes when you're trying to, make yourself be a better leader, right? And that's one thing that I've always thought was really funny in companies, right? You'll have a leader who says, I'm going to make the best salesperson my sales manager, right? And then you go, well, wait a minute, because that never works, right? The best salesperson is never the best sales manager. They may be the best at sales, but can they manage the other salespeople? Because you know this as much as I do. Salespeople are prima donnas, right? Because that's just their mentality and the way that they work. And you can't have another person of the same mentality managing the same mentality. It just doesn't work.
And it's like when you become a parent, you got to give up a lot. Or I suspect. I have never been a parent, so you can speak on that. It's once you become a leader of others and you've given up your individual contributor role, I think there's a grieving process and a loss, and I think people need to be prepared for that and have the maturity. And maybe the maturity is to say, hey, I love being a salesperson too much to give it up. I'm going to stay here. I'm not interested in that promotion because that's not going to fulfill me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times what happens is they see, I'm being given a position of power, and they take the power over, right? It's like I want this power versus saying, wait a minute, am I really truly, the right person for this position? And a lot of times they just take it because it has some power.
Power is sexy, man. And so what was it? Spider-Man's uncle, who said, "With great power comes great responsibility."
Yeah,
I thought I was quoting like some famous person, Kennedy or somebody, and someone's like, "No, Amy, that was Spider-Man's uncle." Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's the truth, right? With great power comes great responsibility, and it's important for leaders to understand that they have that responsibility, and you have to do it in like a fiduciary type of way. You have to run that in a manner that, you're not a leader that's out for yourself, right? Being the fiduciary leader, right, is someone who's, looking out for everybody's interest at the same time and not just their own. And, that's something for me as a having a leadership role here at Voice America. Like, I'm constantly always like, well, what about my guys? What about these guys? And what's funny too is like, I have people who, like the other day, I had one of my employees come to me and goes, "Ryan, I'm gonna have to put my 2-week notice in." And I was like, "Why? Why are you putting your 2-week notice in?" And this employee said, "Well, I got another job offer." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, so you're just going to leave us?" I said, I really would like you to stay because we as a company have invested, significant resources in training you for your position. And, if you leave, I have to start all over again, And so, yes, I'm kind of, a little selfish on that spot because, I don't want to have to train another person.
Right.
But, so I told this person that, and she, I understand. And I said, so what's the common denominator here? And the employee said, well, $2 an hour. And I was like, $2? Okay. You just got a $2 an hour raise. Right. and that employee was like, it was that easy? And I'm like, well, I didn't know you were looking for another job. You never told me that you needed more money. You never, expressed to me, and this person's like, well, I have a roommate right now. I'm trying to move out on my own, so I need to make more money. And I'm like, you should have told me that. I'd have helped you, And so it was kind of a cool interaction because this employee was like, oh, well, I didn't know. And I said, communication, we just have to talk to each other. You let me know what you're trying to get out of your position, and I'll let you know what we can do. And ultimately, we retained the person, and I'm happy because the training continues.
There's two things I heard in that story. One, that you are proactively inviting that employee to ask for what they want. Mm-hmm. And that's very empowering for people. So that's very cool. And the second thing I heard was that you were smart enough to ask questions. You didn't let you were honest. You said that I'm disappointed. It took time and energy to get you up to speed. So you were honest and forthcoming there, though you were also willing to explore and so, tell me more kind of thing. How come? What is it? As you said, what's the common denominator? Mm-hmm. And with that, you got, if you didn't ask that one question, you may be training somebody brand new right now.
Yeah, and I was
you're a busy man.
I'm like, $2? Oh, get out of here. Right. I'm like, so if you do the math, right, it's really funny because if you work a 40-hour work week, right, in a year, you're working 2,080 hours a year, right? And so when I think about it, like immediately I'm like, oh, it's going to cost $4,000 a year. And I'm like, okay, well, we've spent like $3,000 just in some training over the last couple of months. So, let's make sure we retain this person, right? Yeah. Because it's like it's the same way with like web development. Every time you have a web developer who's been working on your website, your services, all these different things, and you're working with this person for such an extended amount of time, like you guys are on the same page, right? That person knows what you're trying to accomplish with your website, what you're trying to do with your technology, all of that. Now take that developer away and put in a new one. And the new one, it says, oh, I spent 2 weeks with the other developer, so I think I know everything. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then 2 weeks go by and you're like, oh, well, we need to, go look at this, and then that. And they go, what? The what?
Right.
And you're like, oh,
right.
So now I have to, now my whole thing is stalled because I have to stop, go backwards, teach this person or explain to this person, the concept of what we're trying to do. And so now we've lost time. And so I think as a leader, in that same space with employees, it's really important that, there's an expectation of communication within your department, within your company, because you can't walk around with your head in the sand or with your head down on the ground and not be 6 horses pulling the same carriage or going the same direction, right? And I think all too often, leaders kind of forget about that. They sit in this space above everyone, and they're not really thinking about, well, what's actually happening. And it's kind of like, I don't remember who said this, but you have people who do landscaping and people who who run the laundromat and all of these very important services that kind of make the world go round.
Right.
And if it wasn't for all of those people, the people in the top portion of society, they wouldn't they wouldn't be able to operate because and so if you don't think about some of the people that make everything happen, I'm not the person running radio shows 12 hours a day and editing and doing all that kind of stuff, and that's our core business. And so those are the things that I have to pay attention to as a leader, not what I'm doing. I need to pay attention to what they're doing and how are they doing it and how can I help them do that.
So that sparked an idea that I'd like to offer to the listeners. 2 questions that I invite leaders to ask on a regular basis, because the truth is they might be listening to you and agreeing with everything you're saying. At the same time, they may be feeling overwhelmed, like, geez, Ryan, yeah, you're right. Except how do I do all the other things I have to do when I've got to run around and check with everybody and make sure everyone's happy? So the 2 questions. First one is a soft question, which is, and so the idea is the leader should be asking his or her employees, colleagues, peers, partner that they're legally bound to on a regular basis. What can I do more of or differently to be a better wife, husband, neighbor, friend, boss, whatever? The second question, what do you need to tell me that you don't want to tell me? And the first time you ask somebody that, let's say, a boss asking an employee, they're going to say, nothing. And then the idea is, don't pat yourself on the back. No. You go back 2 weeks later and you ask the question again. Mm-hmm. What do you need to tell me you don't want to tell me?
Well, and Amy, the first one's easy to do, right? The first question is an easy question to do. The second one is not, right? That
exactly.
That's hard. I do that all the time with my team. You know, I'll walk in there and, you know, I'll see that they're super busy, and, you know, I maybe have like the rest of my afternoon where I don't have any meetings, and I'm like, hey guys, is there anything that I can do to help you guys get your work done today? You know, and the first time that I said that, we had a new employee like a year ago, a new engineer, and my other team, they had already, you know, they know who I am and all that. So the first time I said that to him, he looked at me and was like, you help us? And I'm like, well, yeah. I said, if I'm not willing to do the work that you're doing, then why am I here? You know, I mean, I've said that's one of the things that is an important for leader. You know, like if you walk into a leadership role, but you've never done the items that were below you, then how can you truly be a leader? You know,
yeah.
And so that's why I really like some CEOs and some folks who, they get hired on as a CEO, and the first thing that they do, like I know the CEO of Starbucks did this. He got hired on, and he's like, I'm gonna go work at the store for like 2 weeks. I'm gonna go be a barista, you know, and make some coffee. And it was like, now that and what does that show the employees for that large multi-billion-dollar company, right? If the CEO of a billion-dollar company who makes, you know, 9 figures a year, not 9, 7 figures, excuse me.
It seems like 9.
7 figures a year. If they make 7 figures a year and they're willing to go, you know, pull their boots on and go to work and do the things that they're doing, like I have a lot of respect for that person, because you know, they're putting themselves in the regular employee's shoes, and that shows leadership.
And to finish the challenge to the listeners on that second question, they're going to need to ask multiple times, like you said, Ryan, because people are not going to say, they're not going to tell a leader something they think the person doesn't want to hear. So that leader's got to keep asking, hey, what do you need to tell me you don't want to tell me? And then the day will come. And that employee will be brave and bold and say, well, boss, and they will tell you something you don't want to hear. And so it's going to be really tempting to go, well, hold on a second.
And be prepared, because it might be about you. You know what I mean? Like as a leader, like their comment that, you know, what do you want to say that you don't want to say, or what do you need to say that you don't want to say, right?
Yeah.
It might be about the leader.
Precisely. And the leader will likely, that's the whole point. That's the scary thing. So that leader is got to be prepared for hearing something they don't want to hear, and that's not going to make them happy. And their job is to say, thanks for telling me. I'll think about it and I'll let you know what I decide. So just because people are saying this doesn't work for me doesn't mean we have to change anything, though we have to hear it, receive it, vent our frustration elsewhere, and then follow up with the employee to say, yes, I've decided to do it, or no, I'm not doing it for these reasons.
So let me ask you a question. Do you talk about some of this stuff in your awesome book, The Ego Tango?
In my book, I talk about the mindset, the partner mindset. So that model that my sister Pat Kirkland developed of predator-prey partner, that's the external part, body language, voice, words. I talk about, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you telling yourself that's either helping you to stay in partner or pulling you out of partner?
You guys have to check out this new service that I'm playing around with called Issue. It is totally amazing. You live to create, but you don't live to worry over the last nitpicky details involved in putting final touches on contact. You got to do what you do best and let Issue handle the rest. If you're a creative, you know the drill. You're finally done editing. It's perfect. Now you just need format and reformat for every single platform. With Issue, make it once, and it's ready to post everywhere. Seriously, Issue is the all-in-one platform to create and distribute beautiful digital publications, from brochures to magazines and sales collateral. It's perfect for creators, marketers, designers, educators, publishers, salespeople, or just anyone that wants to make eye-catching content that can be distributed on multiple platforms. Issue makes it really simple. Just upload the PDFs and files, and Issue transforms them using your vision and customizable templates to create the content you want. With Issue, you just create it one time and distribute it everywhere. Everything is optimized to post on your website, social platforms like Instagram and Facebook. They can even help you make animated Instagram stories. And the best part about it, it is free. FREE, free. That's right, it's free to get started with Issue. So go to issue.info/frequency to sign up for your free account. That's ISSUU.info/frequency. .info/frequency to sign up and let them know that you heard about it from this show, Finding Your Frequency. Remember, that's .info, not .com, .info. So go to issuu.info/frequency and get your free account today. So really quick, we've got just like about 4 minutes left here of the show. And again, Amy, thank you for taking time to join us. I want to tell the listeners to go buy your book, The Ego Tango. You got to check that out. If you could just listen to the passion that Amy has, like I would imagine that passion is stuffed into those pages as well. So you guys got to go check out the book, and you can find out more information at carrollcoaching.com. But furthermore, before we get to the end of the show, I also want to let everybody know they need to listen to your show. You have this fantastic show that started last week, and you got one episode for people that they can go listen to the first one and partner up. Amy Carroll. It's like awesome. You got this great show. Partner up with Amy. Tell us a little bit about the radio show and what are you trying to accomplish with that?
Yeah, so my plan is to focus on what I know about, which is probably a good plan. So I'm going to be focusing on power, personal power, status, privilege. I'm going to be talking about improvisational theater techniques and how they can make us happier, kinder, and sexier human beings. And then my plan is to talk about all of these interpersonal communication challenges that we suffer from, where we have to have difficult, delicate conversations. We have to be able to manage the bully, right? Whether that applies to kids as well, though certainly we've all dealt with the bully at work. Being more assertive without being aggressive, teaching others to treat us with respect, whether we're having to mediate, negotiate, present, whatever it is. And then I'm planning to share my own communication disasters and successes and have live coaching sessions and interview people on their own partner success stories.
Oh, that's so awesome. Quick story before we jump off. You said interpersonal communication. When I was in college, I failed interpersonal communication 101. Like the first time that I took it, absolutely horribly failed the class. I didn't get it, right? I was in a class, I was the only male in a class of all females. And when they put us all together to do these exercises, it was so difficult for me because I couldn't understand women, right? Mm-hmm. And so, funny story. I went to my now wife's mother, who was a nurse, and I was like, she was just this really deep kind of person, and I said, "Can you help me with this because I don't get it?" And I went and tried to go take the summer school version of the class because I failed it. Okay. And it's the only college course. It's the only course ever I've ever failed in my life, and I'm like, oh, so bummed about it, And then I go, I talked to my wife's mom, and she helped me through it, and I got an A in the summer class when I went and took the class. But yeah, interpersonal communication is one of the most difficult things I've ever tried to do in my life. And it really does, to understand like, okay, well, I think this about myself, but what do other people think about me? And then what's the actual truth? You know what I mean? Yeah. And like, it's hard to understand those philosophies of, different ways of seeing things, like how you see yourself, how other people see you, and how you think other people see you. And it's definitely a very important skill for leaders to acquire, is that interpersonal communication. It's very important.
It's so funny to hear that you failed it, because I think you've gone above and beyond. Listening to your radio show and how you interact with people and my exchange with you, I feel like you're a pretty solid partner. So that's great to be witness to.
So I want to urge all of the listeners to go check out Amy's show. It's live on the Voice America Business Channel every Friday, 7 a.m. Pacific time. And, Amy, she's in Switzerland, so we got to give out these other times, right? 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 10 p.m. SGT, right? Is that your local time?
Singaporean.
Oh, Singapore.
No, mine's Central European time is 4 p.m. and then Singaporean time for my Asian friends.
That's so awesome. And, we always replay those shows 12 hours later, too, so that way we can hit the time zone, so across the globe, and make sure that people aren't sleeping, right? Because 7 o'clock in the morning is, evening time for you. So, yeah, you guys go check out the show. Partner up with Amy Carroll, 7 a.m. Pacific time on the Voice America Business Channel. It's going to be a great show. Go check out and get her book as well. You can go find out more information about her at www.carrollcoaching.com. Email her at amy@carrollcoaching.com. And, I think all your social media channels are just Amy Carroll Coaching as well. So if you guys are looking to reach out to Amy on the socials, right? The plural, the socials. Check her out. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Finding Your Frequency today. What a great show that we had. Great discussion with Amy, and you can hear more about some of these topics on her radio show. And I want to urge all you guys again, please continue to keep sending information to info@voiceamerica.com. Let us know of all the topics that you like, or tell us what you don't like. I actually love criticism. Like I would rather you tell me that you hate something rather than you tell me that you like something, just because I'd rather go work on something that people don't like versus always tooting the horn, so to speak.
Tell us what you need to tell us that you don't want to tell us.
Yes. And please continue with the 5-star reviews, because 5 stars is better than 4, and that's what I think we deserve. Stay tuned again next week. We'll be right here again on the same channel on Finding Your Frequency, right here on the Voice America Talk Radio Network.